Here's the perfect solution for Xbox's most loyal fans. What's up, y'all? I'm Ray, and this is my channel, Xbox Ready, where we get on and we talk about Xbox stuff. The latest news, rumors, games, accessories, pretty much anything I want to talk about, as long as it's about Xbox in some way. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the one thing that could make the next-gen Xboxes absolutely perfect. It's been a big couple of weeks for Xbox fans. They released a string of new games. We have been absolutely feasting when it comes to new games and day one additions to Game Pass. Then they had the Xbox Showcase. They showed off the Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X, the first Xbox handhelds ever. They showed off the Xbox full screen experience, a new console-like interface that they developed specifically for those Xbox Ally units. And they were like, hold on, y'all like that? We got some more stuff. Let's announce this partnership that we have with AMD, which more or less confirmed the juicier, spicier rumors that had been floating around about these next-gen Xbox consoles. First of all, they officially acknowledged that there will be next-gen Xboxes powered by these new AMD chips, which was important because there were some rumors floating around. There was long-time speculation that Xbox would try to get out of the hardware game as soon as they could and just make sure that Game Pass and cloud gaming was supported on different devices, license out their name to people like Asus. So Sarah Bond's announcement was pretty big if you still want to see first-party Xbox consoles from Microsoft. They also mentioned, they didn't say which launchers were going to be supported, but they were saying that the new Xboxes were going to support multiple storefronts, that you wouldn't be tied down to a single one. And then they went ahead and confirmed that your current Xbox library is going to be compatible with these new machines. There were a lot of complaints floating around about the Xbox Ally handhelds. Oh, they don't actually play Xbox games, just the ones supported by Play Anywhere. So it seems like they heard all that noise and were like, okay, let's get ahead of this and kind of throw a bone to our more loyal fans. Overall, I'm really excited to see what they have cooking up. In my coverage of this the other day, though, there were a couple of things that people seem to take issue with. One of them was a certain phrase I used. I was basically saying that, oh, this seems like a declaration of war, Microsoft's declaration of war against Valve and Steam OS. And people were like, declaration of war? That doesn't even make sense. They're trying to partner with Steam and bring Steam to their hardware and their consoles. What are you talking about? And yes, that is true. One of the more exciting things about these new gen Xbox consoles is the possibility that it will support Steam. But guys, meet me halfway here. Look at everything else that Microsoft is doing with their gaming division. They're making a move into the handheld gaming arena, like Valve. They're making an interface that is eerily similar to Steam OS. And if they said it once, they've said it a million times. They are trying to make a serious push into PC gaming in an era where Steam is breaking records constantly for their concurrent user base. Whatever you want to call it, war, friendly competition, Xbox's ambitions put them on a crash course to deal directly with Steam. For years, it's been Xbox versus PlayStation, Xbox versus PlayStation. But with the moves that Xbox is making now, their strategy is way more similar to Valve and Steam than it is to PlayStation. It may not be a full-on console war like the ones we knew back in the day, where the marketing got ugly, people were getting tattoos and all that to prove their brand loyalty. It's gonna be a little bit more diplomatic than that, absolutely, but things are for sure heating up. Xbox is making moves, and people are gonna take notice. The second thing that people took issue with is my belief that these next-gen Xbox consoles, they're gonna be fully digital. People are like, but Ray, I still got a bunch of Xbox physical discs. Why would you say that? I hate you. And don't get me wrong, I love physical media. This freaking Blu-ray box set that I've had since 2011 of the Lord of the Rings extended trilogy, it's one of my most prized possessions. But guys, meet me halfway here. The last firm numbers that we had in terms of the percentage of games bought digitally and games bought physically on the Xbox platform is not even close. 91% digital to 9% physical. There are major Xbox published games, first-party games that are not getting physical releases on the Xbox platform, but they are on PlayStation. Tony Hawk's 3 and 4, Gears of War Reloaded, The Outer Worlds 2, Ninja Gaiden 4. The only way you're gonna get a Grounded 2 physical copy is through a limited time run. It's just not a priority for them. And again, just look at their current strategy. Just going off of what Sarah Bond said the other day, that they're using these AMD chips or partnering with AMD to power next-gen experiences across cloud, PC, handheld, and console. That is a predominantly digital gaming ecosystem. And with physical game sales dwindling, especially on the Xbox side, every single year, I just don't believe that Microsoft is gonna make a console that caters to such a small population of their customers. But before we get all upset, before we get up in arms, before we lament the progress of time and technology, I don't think Xbox is leaving us out in the cold just yet. They've been beating this drum for a while, not just with their new consoles, but all through this generation, all through Xbox One as well. They have positioned themselves as champions of backwards compatibility. No one has done more work to make sure that their library of games is supported on whatever console that they put out than Microsoft and Xbox has. They basically made every game that they possibly could compatible with modern consoles until they finally ran out. And while I do believe that they're trying to be nimble and try to adapt to trends going on in the industry, including digital game sales, from an optics perspective, it would be horrible, absolutely just a terrible look if they did all of this talk about games preservation, making sure your games are supported, and then be like, ooh yeah, we meant all of your digital games, all of those physical discs that you've bought over the years. No, that's not gonna work. How that's gonna happen, we don't really know. So while sure, they may want to make their consoles fully digital, they may not be interested in making physical versions of their newest games, but they have to address the disc situation in some way. But what if I told you there's a possibility that Xbox has been thinking of a solution to this exact problem for the past 5 years? Back in November of 2020, Xbox filed a patent that is titled Software Ownership Validation of Optical Discs Using Secondary Device. Examples of the present disclosure describe systems and methods for providing software ownership validation of optical discs using secondary devices. In aspects, a user may request access to electronic content using a first device. In response to the request, a local network comprising the first device may be queried to identify a second device having access to electric content. For example, the second device may comprise an optical disc comprising the electronic content. Upon identifying the second device may be queried to determine whether the second device is able to validate the user's ownership of the electronic content. If the second device is able to validate the user's ownership of the electronic content, the first device is provided access to that content. They're basically describing someone taking like a detachable disk drive, hooking it up to a console, putting in a game disc, then it talks to the Xbox network and it says, oh yeah, that's a legit game disc. You now have access to the digital version, which you can download on your Series X or all digital Xbox without the need to put the disc in. It's now yours. At the time, I thought this would be a perfect solution for Series S owners, a cool little add-on for anyone who springs for the Series X digital version. It sounded like a cool idea because, yeah, if maybe you want a digital console for the convenience, but maybe you're out and about, you're at the mall, you stop in a GameStop and you're like, holy crap, this game is super cheap, used, on sale. Something like this would let you take advantage of that. There are a couple of drawbacks though, obviously, because, well, if you have a physical disc, chances are you want to play it straight off the disc, if there's even anything on that disc anymore. That we see that a lot too, versus getting the digital license and then downloading like a huge ass file via the internet. You also got to think, okay, if you do this process, you put the disc in, you get the digital license, is the disc just burnt now? Like you can't use the physical disc, or like it's converted entirely into digital? I guess the key is that both devices would have to be online. So the secondary device would also have to have its own internet connection in order for Xbox to recognize it as legitimate. It would also kind of be a hilarious full circle moment for Xbox, because what's described in this patent, the whole process, is pretty much that was the plan back in the Xbox One generation with their DRM policies. But at the time when they revealed it, everyone freaked out, like had a meltdown, so they had to backtrack on it. But now this patent, if they're still even working on it, could be the final key in this whole backwards compatibility situation, the final piece that they need to make the next-gen Xbox an absolutely perfect machine. Granted, this sounds a lot less cool, a lot more complicated than what we see Sony doing with the PS5 Slim. They're like, yeah, this console is digital, but if you change your mind, you want a disk drive, you can go ahead and buy one and install it later. That is 1000% 100% something that Xbox could do. And that would cover a wider variety of situations. In this patent, it's specifically geared, it seems like, towards games. But what about people who use their Xboxes as an all-in-one entertainment system to watch DVDs, Blu-rays? A full-blown detachable disc reader, not just something that gives you permission, would absolutely cover that situation. And it would do a lot to buy them goodwill, throw their hardcore fans a bone. We know that they're all gung-ho about Game Pass, cloud, digital games. That's gonna be the majority of their business going forward. Having that option, whether it's what we're seeing in this patent, a disc reader that'll verify the validity of our disc and give us the digital key for it, or a full-blown detachable disc drive, that's a no-brainer for them. I mean, if they're gonna go through the trouble of making their own handheld, making their own consoles, I don't know, possibly making like their own Xbox branded gaming PC towers, they could put just a little bit more extra work and close that gap in their offerings. Make good on their promise to support everyone's existing library, whether it's digital or physical, without making an entirely new console SKU. If the next Xbox comes out, there's no disk drive, it's fully digital. While I believe the best case scenario for us is them releasing an accessory similar to the one they're describing in the patent, or something similar to what we see with the PS5 Slim. It's like, dang, that just used to be a standard thing. Every console came with a disk drive, a way to play movies and games. Same thing with PCs, laptops and desktops. It's like when they release a new iPhone every year and they slowly just take away old, quote unquote, outdated features, like a freaking jack for your headphone, or like a home button that you can actually press. This whole situation is them absolutely finding a solution to stuff we presumably figured out years ago. And that's especially how I feel about the patent. Like, why would I want a secondary device that is basically a disc reader, but it's not there to read discs, it's just there to talk to the Xbox network and give me permission to convert my physical purchase into a digital one? Maybe that's their end goal in all this, make your entire library digital. Maybe that's their idea of future-proofing your Xbox library, which again, sounds weird, sounds totally backwards, but the idea that game discs are future-proof, that's not necessarily always true. I have the physical game disc, the 360 version of Battlefield 4. My Series X has a disc drive in it. Yet when I put these discs in, it's like, I don't know what to tell you, bro. You can't play this game. It's not supported. So really, there's no guarantee that even if this next Xbox came out and had a disc drive, that you would be able to even use your discs. But maybe if you got permission from the Xbox servers, prove that you have a disc version of that game, they let you download the digital version of it. I guess for Xbox specifically, there's an advantage to that. Like, you take your physical game, you make it digital, and suddenly it's mobile throughout every part of the Xbox ecosystem. Because you own the digital license, you can download it on a handheld if you wanted to buy one of those. You could stream it through Xbox Cloud Gaming. And of course, you'd be able to download it to an all-digital Xbox console. They could go out of their way to make sure that your Xbox discs that you have right now are compatible with the next Xbox. But what about the Xbox after that? What about the one after that? I can only play this version of Battlefield 4 on my Xbox 360, and eventually that's gonna give out, which would make these discs, like many others, useless. But of course, those same risks apply to digital ownership, especially in this world where people like Ubisoft are like, you better get used to not owning your games. You don't really own your games. So maybe these theoretical disc drive accessories, maybe they're two separate things. Maybe they're one thing, like, oh, you can play your discs off of this, or you can use it to convert your game into digital. I don't know. No matter what, we are going full steam ahead into this new version of Xbox. They've been kind of dancing around on it for a while, keeping us guessing with what games are going to be exclusive, which ones aren't. For the first time in a while, we have clarity on what direction Xbox is going. I'm excited for it. It seems much more forward thinking than what we're seeing from other platforms. Not saying what they're doing is bad, but you know, there are some things that Nintendo's doing, some things that PlayStation is doing with their more traditional approach that kind of seem whack, kind of seem more outdated nowadays. But I understand not everyone's gonna feel that way. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready. Let me know what you think about the future of Xbox in the comments. Subscribe if you like my content, if you like Xbox. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.